NHL insiders have linked the Toronto Maple Leafs to multiple moves for this upcoming trade deadline, and now with Nick Robertson sent down to the AHL, could we see a possible move in his future as well? We'll break it all down for you coming up on this episode of Hat Trick HQ. But before we get into it, once again, we're proud to announce that this video is brought to you by our friends at rentals.ca, and moves are coming. With all the rumors and reports that have been coming out around the league, fans have been expecting for a lot of major shakeups to happen around the league, which should definitely be exciting for hockey fans. And if you feel like you need some extra excitement in your own life, then it's time to move for you as well, and rentals.ca has you covered.
Rentals.ca is Canada's largest apartment hunting network. You can rent houses, apartments, condos, whatever it is, Rentals.ca has you covered. From coast to coast, you can go straight to Rentals.ca website. It's super clean and easy to use. You can use the map and you can pinpoint exactly where to live. Any street you want, you just click on it. You can see all the rentals listing and it's so easy to use.
And once again, shout out to Rentals.ca for coming back on board and sponsoring another video here. And they're big hockey fans, just like all you guys watching this. So if you're looking to move, make sure to go down below in the description, in the pinned comment, and check out Rentals.ca for yourself and let them know we sent you. But with that said, let's get right into the first topic of the video today, which is Robertson sent down to the AHL. And as we take a look here, this is from Leafs Pierre. It says the Maple Leafs have loaned Nick Robertson to the Toronto Marlies, and Kelly Yarncroke has been activated from the injured reserve. And as you take a look at Nick Robertson's stats so far this season, while he's played with the Marlies so far this season, in 9 games he does have 11 points, 5 goals, 6 assists, and in 41 games with the Toronto Maple Leafs he has 8 goals, 11 assists for 19 points. And Mark, I did see a lot of people speculating about this on Twitter, saying maybe this means that Nick Robertson may be dealt at the deadline. Just what are your thoughts on that?
So the big thing is with Kelly Yarncroke coming back, it's hard to really find a perfect spot for Robertson in the lineup. I know he has looked great on the Tavares line. He was playing with Bobby McMahon as well. But the big problem with this is Kelly Yarncroke is a guy that not only does Sheldon Keefe love, but his entire team loves as well. He's a guy you can plug and play anywhere around the lineup. He's one of the least penalty killers. He can kind of be used as a Swiss Army knife, and it's hard to kind of not put him back into lineup to keep a guy like Robertson in. So the big thing this is coming down to, first off, he is eligible to be sent down and not clear waivers. So this was a big reason that Brad said that he was sent down. But Nick Robertson must be getting a little frustrated with this whole situation. I mean, we're seeing the most healthy and productive season out of Robertson out of his entire NHL career, and his time just with the Leafs organization. He's finally got his footing in. He's an RFA at the end of the year. But the big problem is, where do you play him once he comes up? Kelly Yarncroke, like I said, is a guy that's just a defensible, responsible guy. He can score you 20 goals, and I think he fits perfectly with a guy like Tavares and Bob McMahon. Right now, the top 6 has looked great. I mean, on the left side alone, you have guys like Tyler Bertuzzi over there. You have guys like Matthew Nyes. You're not touching them. The right side's Marner and Nylander, so you're definitely not demoting either of these guys into the bottom 6. So it kind of leaves that fourth line left wing spot open. I know there was a lot of hate around Reeves for quite some time, but I think Reeves has looked outstanding since returning from injury. I mean, the fight the other night was one of the best tilts I've seen in quite some time. So it comes down to, do you want to play a guy like Robertson on the fourth line? Obviously, if you leave him in the AHL, he's going to produce there, but he might start to get annoyed. And if they do go out and acquire maybe a harder player to play against, and by that, I'm not saying Nick Robertson isn't hard to play against, but I mean maybe a guy that's 6'3", 6'4", a good playoff guy. I know Anthony Mantha's name was floating around, but if they acquire a guy like this to take over that fourth line spot, then you need to look at what do you do with a guy like Pontus Holmberg, who's playing there now, and Nick Robertson, who, if they call up, might be a healthy scratch. So if it comes down to Robertson not wanting to be in the AHL, if he expressed just him not being happy about this, maybe the Leafs will dangle him around in a possible trade package.
Yeah, and first off, I just want to say Reeves really did feed Rempe his lunch the other night, didn't he? I mean, that was such, like you said, a heavyweight tilt. It was a fun one to watch. But back to Nick Robertson, I'm really high on this kid. I really like the way he plays. I think he has such a high ceiling. And, I mean, he hasn't really found his footing so far in the NHL. I mean, he has played 41 games this season, which is spectacular. But, I mean, now seeing him sent down, I mean, it kind of had to happen because other guys were up there that if they were sent down, they'd have to go through waivers, so they had to kind of make this move as Yarncroke came back and is now activated. And it's just really up in the air for me as if you would trade him or if you was keep him. I really think he does have like I said, a high ceiling. I think he's a great player in the league and has the ability to be a great goal scorer in the NHL. It's just I think he needs to find the right opportunity. And like you said, by putting him at that fourth line, you may be stunting his development just a tiny bit because he's not getting much ice time down there on that fourth line as he would say on a third line or whatever, or even a top line in the AHL. I mean, he's going to be getting a lot of minutes, a lot of opportunity down with the Marlies to kind of show what he's worth and keep his development going. So I think this is best for his game. But when we talk about a trade here, I think if something comes up at the deadline where they either, a team wants a first or a player equivalent, we may see Nick Robertson go.
Yeah, like the big thing is you kind of look at the Pittsburgh Penguins. No, I'm not going to say the Leafs are going to trade for Jake Gensel and put him on the fourth line. But a team like the Penguins have expressed if Gensel was going out, they don't want really multiple picks. They want young pieces to come back that can be put into this lineup and perform right away. So there are a lot of teams looking at this as well. If Robertson's the guy that comes down to, hey, we can get this piece that can really help us, but Robertson has to go, I think the Leafs would really take a hard look at that. I think he has so much potential in the league. I think just his entire career has kind of been derailed a tiny bit by injuries, not really making a step into the NHL until a couple of years after being drafted. But this is a guy that I could really see being a 30-goal scorer throughout the NHL. It's just hard to find the spot on the Leafs for him. Yes, he's an RFA. Yes, you can bring him back at the end of the season. But the last thing you want to do is continuously, like you said, stunt this guy's development by placing him into the minors, not really giving him his fair shot in the NHL, and then him just kind of be mad, not want to be there, request a trade, and then you almost lose so much value on them if teams know he doesn't want to be there.
Yeah, I definitely have to agree with that. I think like he would fit on a team that's kind of in a rebuild right now. I think he could easily slot into this third, slide up to the second. I think he has a lot of potential here. It just really sucks that for him that this Leafs team is so deep and the roster is so hard to crack. But like you said, if it comes down to it at the deadline and you need to throw a prospect into it, I think his name will be floated around rather than a Cowan or a Minton, guys who are still at such a young age that the Leafs want for their future. But it will be interesting to see what happens with Nick Robertson come deadline time. I'm really high on this kid. I think he has so much potential in this league, and we'll have to see what happens come trade deadline. But we're going to get into our second topic of the video today, which is huge moves incoming. And as we take a look here from Jonas Siegel on Twitter, this is Brad Treliving says the Leafs are open to dealing a first-round pick at the deadline. It says, I think you got to be careful with first-round picks for short-term help, but if it makes sense at the end of the day, when you do the final analysis, you have to look at every option. And we also did see here from Elliot Friedman that they were looking at a lot of right-handed shot defensemen. They were looking at David Savard from the Montreal Canadiens, and he'd heard of Nick Jensen from the Washington Capitals, of a name that that they were standing out and the Leafs are going to maybe look at the deadline. They say they still have room to do other things, but those are definitely some names that we're looking at now that Chris Tanev is off the board. And first, we're going to look into David Savard here, and this is what Kent Hughes said in an Athletic article about his price for David Savard. He said, it's a healthy debate. I think it would take a first-round pick, a young player with a value equivalent to a first-round pick, or multiple picks with combined value equivalent to a first. And as we take a look into David Savard's stats so far this season, as we take a look, this guy, obviously, we've talked about him here before on the channel, is a great stay-at-home defensive defenseman. The only thing that kind of worries you about this guy is the injury issues. But so far this season has played 39 games with the Montreal Canadiens, putting up 14 points and 109 blocks is the big number to look at here. He's a guy who's going to put it all out there for your team every night and has 51 hits as well. And Mark, I know we've talked about David Savard a lot here on the channel about potential moves we could see for this guy, and I really do see him fitting really nicely into this Toronto Maple Leafs decor. And if they're going to move a first-round pick, I think David Savard is the guy you go after. He has some term left on his contract. He's a little bit cheaper, I believe, at $3.5 million right now, and I think this guy could easily slot in and even play top line with Riley.
Yeah, the big thing is they're constantly looking for this guy that can play with Riley. I know they just went out and got Boosh. Boosh did go down with an injury. He seems like he should be fine. They're waiting to reevaluate him. But David Savard's a guy that could definitely come in and be one of your top penalty killers. He'll lay the hits for you, he'll block shots. He has a lot of playoff experience. But the only problem with trading a guy like Savard, first off, he's 33. He's had a bit of an injury history. Yes, he's kind of fought through that, and this year he has looked great when healthy, and he's looking like he has been healthy. But the big thing is you get 2 more years this year and next. 3.5. So you need to figure out how to get him in, make this work. I know they have a lot of UFAs going into the offseason. So you need to make sure you can resign the guys you want to sign and then bring in a guy like Savard. And the second biggest thing is with the Montreal and Toronto being such big rivals, the team might ask for a lot more than this first round pick that they're asking from other teams. I mean, we've seen Thomas Buchanan come over. The Leafs almost gave up a bit of a king's ransom for him. He played there for 1 year, walked in free agency, went to Montreal and then retired. Obviously, we'd have Savard for 2 years. But if they're looking at Toronto and saying, hey, we want more because you're in our division, we're rivals, we don't want to help you out, I think you might want to look at another team. But if you can get Savard for just the value of that first round pick, get the shutdown guy, like I said, a guy that's going to put his body on the line, has the experience. I think he's a perfect fit for this Leafs team.
Yeah, I definitely have to agree with that. I really do think Brad Schliving and the Toronto Maple Leafs may take a look at this guy and see what value they would have to give back to bring in a guy like this. But like you said, I think he would be a perfect fit here in Toronto, especially on this playoff team. He's a playoff guy. He's going to put it all on the line for your team every single night. He's going to block the shots. He's going to do everything he can defensively to stop the other team's offense. And I think, I think we've seen this guy before in the playoffs with Tampa and stuff like this where he played phenomenal. So I think maybe you see him you come here to Toronto if you can get him at a fairly, nice deal to bring him in. I think this could be a great option. But the other option that Friedman did put forward here was Nick Jensen. And as we take a look at Nick Jensen, in 57 games, he has 8 assists for 8 points with 88 blocks, 42 hits. Kind of the same type of player as David Savard, just a little bit faster. He can great at performing breakout plays throughout the up the ice and jumping into passing lanes, but it does come at a little bit of a higher price here at $4 million AAV for the next 2 seasons after this year. So you are getting a guy here with 2 more years left on his contract after this year. So you are paying, I guess, for the term in this situation. But I think this could be a guy that could easily, like we said about David Savard, slot into this Leafs D-core. Maybe you start him on the second pairing, and then if he starts playing great, maybe try him out with Riley.
Yeah, so the big thing with the Capitals, and this is where I kind of want to segue into the Nick Robertson, they have Ovi. They don't want to go through a rebuild. I know we just seen Kuznetsov get placed in the minors, which was a bit mind-blowing to me. So it looks like they want to bring in young talent. The thing with Jensen, his advanced stats look outstanding. I know he's a guy that gets a lot of defensive zone starts. When you look at the advanced stats, the team is pretty much dead even on the plus-minus, but it's because of just the struggles around the Capitals' entire team so far this year. But if you can get Jensen in, I know it's 4 million. If you can get them to retain, Friedman and other insiders kind of spoke out saying the Capitals would retain if they get back young pieces in this. So maybe this is where you deal a pick. Maybe Nick Robertson goes in this if you don't even want to send Robertson there. But the big thing is Jensen has 3 years. His injury history hasn't been as bad. Him and Savard are pretty close to the same players. They're going to block shots. Great penalty killers. They could fit with Morgan Riley perfectly. But the thing with Jensen at 33, you are getting him until he's just roughly around 35, 36. You don't know how much he might fall off. This guy could play outstanding. I mean, we've seen Mark Giordano look great on the Leafs even at his age 70 season. I know that's a complete joke. But the big thing is it really depends on how much you're giving up. Like I said, we have Bush. Right now on the right side, you're looking at a guy like Bush. McCabe has been playing there. Liljegren. So if you're getting a guy like this back, you just got to wonder where he fits into the lineup.
I know a lot of people are going to be down in the comment section saying, oh, we've seen it over these last couple of weeks saying we don't want old players. We don't want people in their 30s. But unfortunately, that's the situation you're in. You need to get these older veteran guys. You're looking for a Stanley Cup. You're looking for veterans to go, through a deep playoff run. Guys who have been there, guys who know what to do in those situations. So bringing these guys in, even though they are up there in age, are going to help the team more off the ice by helping these younger guys, get into the mentality of being a cup-winning team because they've been there, they've seen it, they know what it takes to win a Stanley Cup in this league. And this is what you're getting with guys like Savard, guys like Jensen, these older veteran guys who are going to come in and just go to battle for you every night. And I know it all depends on here what the value will be going back the other way, because you don't want to overpay on guys like this. But I think in this situation, if you're paying the right amount, you're getting guys with term here. I really do think this is the best situation for the Toronto Maple Leafs.
The big thing with the Capitals, too, they have a guy named Nick Dowd. He's playing fourth line center for him. He's their top penalty killer, and this is where you can maybe look at packaging a deal to get a PKer in a guy like Dowd. You can bring in Jensen, and a name I do want to bring up, which might be kind of out of place. I don't know if they're going to actually do a trade like this, is Lars Eller. Maybe Dubas is looking at the Leafs like, hey, I drafted a bunch of these guys. We want young pieces coming in. Why don't I bring in some familiar faces? The Leafs can grab a guy like Lars Eller. They're just looking for these Western Conference style players that are hard to play against, that can PK and just perform in the playoffs. And I think Brad's going to really deep dive on a lot of players. And I think the moves he's going to make are going to be a lot more surprising than we are expecting.
Yeah, I definitely have to agree with you, but I have to shout out Lars Eller, Habs legend. I mean, that guy's a beauty, but I mean, like you said, I think Brad's going to have every option here to try to bring in some extra help come trade deadline. I'm sure he's been making calls flat out this weekend, making calls. He's going to be busy on the phone this week as well, and we're going to keep you up to date on everything that happens here around Toronto, where their plans may shift throughout the week, and we'll keep you up to date, so make sure to subscribe to the channel. But we're going to get into everybody's favorite topic, which is comment of the day, and the comment of the day today goes to Sean. He says, great job as always, KC. As of today, this extension has been finalized. 8 years. This was about the Elias Pettersson extension. He says, as always, go Leafs go, from way up north, Timmins, Ontario, Canada. And shout out to you, Sean. We love to see your continued support here on the channel. Love seeing you down in the comment section all the time. And yeah, Elias Pettersson did extend for 8 years, which was a great signing for Vancouver. I love that he's going to be in Vancouver for 8 more years. Maybe we'll see a Stanley Cup in those 8 years. I think, they have one, on the horizon here in the coming years. But if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to go down below, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. We're on the road for 3,000 subscribers, and we're getting pretty close. We're like 70 subscribers away from hitting our goal of 3,000. So if you're not subscribed, make sure to go down below and hit that subscribe button. And once again, shout out to our friends at rentals.ca for coming back on board and supporting another video. And if you enjoy the NHL, make sure to check out this video we did talking about the potential Philadelphia Flyers and Toronto Maple Leafs trade. So make sure to go check that one out. But as always, I've been your host, KC, alongside my co-host, Mark Pye. Keep your stick on the ice.